and the rise of kings. Okay, these all played a part in the rise of the market. Powerful kings, such as William the Conqueror, the Duke of Normandy, who overthrew the Anglo-Saxon claimants to the English throne in 1066, and Philip Augustus of France, centralized royal administration and weakened the power of the nobility. To do this, they established a class of officials throughout the countryside who are independent of the nobility. They were responsible only to the king and were not part of the feudal system. In English, this official was often known as the sheriff. So, down here it says the rise of the kings. So, powerful kings, and it's not just these two kings. These are a couple examples. There were other kings as well, but William the Conqueror, and Philip Augustus of France. It says they weakened the power of the nobility. And how they did that is they established sheriffs. And they chose middle-class men. Okay, so these were men from middle class. And it said they were only answerable to the king. So they weren't part of the feudal system. They answered only to the king. Another way that they weakened the power of the nobility is they required payment of feudal dues in cash. And what that did is that encouraged the development of products for trade and weakened the feudal system. So the first thing they did is establish sheriffs, and the second thing they did, they required feudal dues in cash. I should have put up there ways that they weaken the nobility. See if you can squeeze it right here. Well, I'll just put it down here. By appointing sheriffs and requiring feudal dues in cash. They weakened the power of the nobility. The methods used by the monarchs strengthened the trading class. So this weakened the power of the nobility, but at the same time, it strengthened the trading class. The middle class of townsmen, merchants, and bankers not only supplied the manpower for the bureaucracy, but also they had the cash to pay for their own taxes and to lend to the nobility. In return, the towns received military protection from the king. Okay, so this weakened the power of nobility, it strengthened the trading class, and they received military protection from the king. Military protection from the king. In the early Middle Ages, money was slowly accepted. At first, most payments for goods were made with goods. It's called bartering. Salt and fish for other products. For example, the use of money increased as trade increased. Okay, so money was slowly accepted. Originally, payments for goods were made with goods. Salt and fish for other products, for example. The use of money increased as trade increased because traveling merchants wanted to be paid in coins. They did not want to carry back the relatively primitive and bulky goods of Europe. Okay, so traveling merchants wanted to be paid with coins. They wanted to be paid with coins because they were traveling, and it's easier to carry coins with you when you travel than to try to carry a bunch of, a whole bag full of oranges. It's easier just to carry coins than it is to carry 2 cows with you. Okay. The demand for money caused Europeans to seek valuable but small items with which to trade. From 1101 to 1300, gold and silver were mined in northern and eastern Europe, and by the 1200s, new coins were being minted in Italy and France. As everyone enjoyed this easily acceptable form of trade, more money became available for both trade and capital investment. So money is slowly being accepted. First, to pay for goods, you had to pay with it with other goods. Then the traveling merchants wanted to be paid with coins because it was easier for them to carry. And then it said now we're not only using coins for trade, but we're using them to buy capital. So money is slowly being accepted. Gold was accepted as the universal exchange. Everyone seemed happy with the gold coinage offered, no matter what country was offering it. Okay. Now we're accepting gold as the universal exchange. The demand for gold increased just as gold production started to decrease. The continual drop in production continued in Europe from 1300 to 1450, and a search for gold was begun in the New World. Exploration was started not so much for the sake of adventure, but for the quest for gold. New sources were discovered in Africa and in the West Hemisphere. So, since gold is accepted as the universal exchange, now everybody's looking for gold. So next we have gold exploration. The quest for marketable goods caused the growth of the wool, cloth, and metal goods industries. In England, many noblemen turned their peasants out of the commonly owned pasture, built a fence around it, and they raised sheep for wool. This development was called enclosure and was in part responsible for the vast labor pool that was later tapped by the Industrial Revolution. Okay. So now, with the gold, people are wanting goods, marketable goods. Marketable goods. Since now everybody's looking for goods to buy, whenever you see the word goods, that's usually clothing. Okay? To get clothing, you need wool. And so now what they did is they kicked the peasants off of their land. They put a fence around it, and they raised sheep for wool. So they put a fence around their pasture, and they raised sheep for wool so they can make these clothes. Okay, and since now they're needing people to work, you know, they're needing people to raise the sheep, they're needing people to do all the jobs associated with it, which created a labor pool. Okay, the demand for money was overriding trade of goods. In other words, now people don't want to trade goods for goods anymore. Now they want money. The use of money created the need for credit and accounting and stimulated the development of banking. Okay. Number 7. So now people are demanding money. Now there's a demand for money instead of goods. They want to be paid with money instead of payment with goods. So now there's a need for I'll put this under here. Now there's a need for credit. Now there's a need for accounting. Without the widespread and efficient use of money and credit, no truly effective free market economy could have developed. Banking goes here as well. All this came to be because of money. The Age of Exploration helped usher in the free market economy. The period at the end of the Middle Ages has been termed the Age of Exploration. Okay. So now we're at the Age of Exploration. The period at the end of the Middle Ages has been termed the Age of Exploration. Merchants wanted new places to buy and sell. Kings wanted to expand their dominions. The first great power to enter the Age of Exploration was Portugal. Excuse me. So merchants want new places to buy and sell. Kings wanted to expand their dominions. The first great power to enter the Age of Exploration was Portugal. Okay, so Portugal. Portuguese seamen under the sponsorship of Prince Henry the Navigator explored the west coast of Africa in search of a water route to the Orient. Okay, so we have Prince Henry the Navigator, Prince Henry the Navigator, explored the west coast of Africa. And searched for a water route to the Orient. Okay. So he explored Africa And he's looking for a water route to the Orient. In 1847, a Portuguese captain named Bartholomew Dias rounded the Cape of Good Hope and sailed into the Indian Ocean. What was the year on Prince Henry? Okay. We have, I'm just going to put Dias. These are the same explorers that you've talked about before. He rounded the Cape of Good Hope. Cape of Good Hope. And then it says Vasco da Gama reached India in 1848. So I'm going to put Gama. Reached India in 1498. Portugal now had a water route to the Orient. With more exploration came more goods. More goods meant a demand for more money. Okay. So the age of exploration. Merchants want more places to buy and sell their products. The kings want to expand their dominions. Portugal was the first to enter into the age of exploration. There's Prince Henry the Navigator. He explored Africa looking for a water route to the Orient. Diaz explored the Cape of Good Hope. Gama explored India. So now they have a water route to the Orient. But every time you explore, you find more goods. And every time they find more goods, they need more money to get those goods. Okay? So the demand for more money is a universal trade item. Events began to move quickly. Okay, now we're going to talk about, Columbus discovered the Western Hemisphere in 1492. Let's talk about Columbus. Columbus. And he discovered the Western Hemisphere. Ferdinand Magellan circumnavigated the globe. Circumnavigated the globe. The Western Hemisphere created for Europe a source of raw materials, gold and silver, and colonial markets. Wealth was defined by the amount of gold one's country had. Discoverers were not traveling for the romantic notion of finding pure wilderness. They were financed to discover more raw materials for riches' sake. Okay, so wealth was defined by the amount of gold one's country had. So they were rating the countries by how much gold they had. The use of money increased as trade grew worldwide. The factories that have been discussed, the Reformation, the rise of towns, the use of money, the advent of nations, and the age of exploration set the stage for the development of the free market economy in Western Europe and in America. The market economy did not reach its fullest growth until the 18th and 19th century, which witnessed not only the industrialization of Europe, but also the development of economic science. When Adam Smith, the father of economics, published The Wealth of Nations in 1776, the market was already born and was growing to maturity. Money was now a common element of exchange, and still is, obviously, to this day. Okay, Adam Smith. I'm going to put a side note in here. Adam Smith is considered the father of economics. That needs to be in your notes. Okay. Go through and study this lesson and answer the questions.